A Scottish Conservative MP says ministers in London should not underestimate the depth of disappointment that changes to the EU withdrawal bill haven't been made yet. MPs will vote shortly to send the legislation to the House of Lords, where ministers say the changes, which affect powers to the devolved governments, will come. Our political correspondent Nick Eardley can bring us up to date.
St Pancras Station in central London. This is where trains from Brussels to the UK end up, and a useful place to remind ourselves what the row over the withdrawal bill is all about. A significant number of powers will be coming back from Brussels when we leave the EU too. More than 100 of them cover the Scottish Parliament's competencies. It seems likely some will be held in common frameworks where Westminster and Holyrood both have a say, but some will be going straight up the road to Edinburgh, like trains in there at King's Cross. All Scottish parties agree the withdrawal bill needs changes. The problem, they've not agreed how yet. So with the bill back in the Commons this afternoon, there were no government amendments as had been promised.
What there needs to be is an agreement between the UK government and the devolved administrations, and without that agreement, it is impossible to replace Clause 11.
The government had plenty of time to have resolved things by this stage, and that is why there is such a deep degree of distrust and suspicion about what the government's intent is here.
And opposition parties think there's a problem of accountability.
The government said that the elected MPs would be able to debate this. Instead, political appointees and hereditary peers who are there as an accident of birth are going to have a greater say over this than the Scottish Parliament has, and that's not right.
Labour will force a vote this evening, trying to get through their own changes they believe would protect devolution, urging the Scottish Tories to back them.
They are going to allow this bill to pass basically to the Lords unamended, and we are saying stop, don't do that, get behind Labour's amendment, vote for our amendment tonight and make sure that we can protect the devolution settlement.
And despite their concerns, the Scottish Conservative MPs are set to back the government tonight.
This is a really complicated part of the bill, and what's important is that the Scottish and UK governments continue to talk to each other and find an agreed form of words that commands both of their support. That's taking longer than we wanted, but it's better to do it right than rush it.
The final destination of those powers continues to be discussed. When they are laid down in law, how more delays are avoided is still being figured out. Nick Eardley reporting Scotland, Westminster.
Well, let's go to our parliamentary correspondent David Porter. David, there seems to be some genuine disquiet about how the UK government is handling this.
Jackie, the vexed question of Brexit and how Brexit will impact on the devolved administrations, principally in our case, Holyrood, is being discussed in the House of Commons as we speak now. And there is a row brewing tonight, and it basically centres on the fact that the UK government has not brought forward any changes or, in the parliamentary parlance, amendments to the legislation. Everyone agrees, as far as devolution is concerned, that changes will have to be brought forward to make it work properly and to improve the bill. Last week, the Scottish Secretary, David Mundell, announced that they would not take place in the House of Commons, but instead they would take place at some point in the future in the House of Lords. Now, opposition MPs have been very critical of this. They say it is wrong that archbishops of the Church of England and other unelected politicians will be able to have a say on what happens in Scotland when elected MPs, including those from Scotland, will not. And we saw a flavour of that from a Conservative MP for Stirling, Stephen Kerr. He said that the government should not be underestimating in any way the depth of disillusionment about what had happened. He finished his remarks rather pointedly to his own benches, saying that it was too late for the UK government to make amendments in the House of Commons, but they could make amends. Now, Labour will try and capitalise on this by forcing a vote on the issue this evening within the next few minutes. It is unlikely that that vote is going to be carried, but I think ministers should be left under no illusion of the annoyance from MPs, not just from Scotland, at the way this has been handled.
Thank you very much, David Porter at Westminster.